I'm just 25, but I'm just sitting here like,
I just
I want to
I
get
just
married. I want to have kids. I want to have a wife. I want to have my kids go to mass each day and become saints. And I recognize that the only way that I can possibly do that is by shielding them from the one unique person that can lead the whole world to Christ. Like, think of it this, guys. The Pope is the one person on planet Earth that can uniquely lead the whole world to Christ. Okay, is that happening? Of course, you will always have resistance, right? With the great popes, right? We could have Pope St. Pius the 12th, right? Pope St. Pius the 13th, rather, show up and be a complete Chad and just destroy all of the wickedness that's going on inside of the church. But we're not seeing that today. We're not seeing any concept of that going on at all. And what we need to understand fundamentally is this point: they don't care. Stop pretending that they care. If we really cared, why aren't we having debates on, like, okay, is Mary the co-redemptrix? No, we're asking questions about polygamy. We're
it's so
asking questions
weird.
we're asking questions like, can we somehow get around the natural law? It's like the kid who's just like,
Our
I
theology has devolved so
yeah,
much.
it's anthropology. It's just, how
Yes.
can I ultimately self-serve my own based desires, based in the simple sense, and justify them? And what makes me go unglued is the fact that we have people in the hierarchy and in Catholic media who say, you're insane for believing that. You have faculties? No, it's only the Pope who has reason. You think something's going on? You must be a rad trad. You must be schismatic. Or, common one today, you're just a dissenter. I'm like,
Talk about Phariseeism, right? Like, what are they doing right now? They are looking for loopholes to get around the letter of the law, right?
yeah.
So if you look to what Christ actually condemns in the Pharisees, he says, "You all right?" So what he's condemning is,
He says you give away, you avoid stuff like judgment, love, mercy, these other things of the law, but you're focused in on tithing your spice cabinet, your mint, and your coriander.
so what he was talking about. Okay, so there was, I forgot what it's actually. I actually was just talking about to Father Dave Nix about this. So they had a rule where obviously the commandment says honor thy mother and father, right? So when a man's parents were getting older, so that he could get around paying for his parents, he would give his money to the temple as a donation and then withdraw it from the temple. So he was able to get around the rule or the law, the commandment to honor thy mother and father. So what they're doing right now is they're trying to find a way to subvert the Christian teaching without. That's why I said in the green room, I said, I don't think you'll ever see Francis do something on paper that's heretical. Never. You'll never see that. He's never going to come and sit ex cathedra and say same-sex relationships are the equivalent of marriage. He'll never do that. What he'll do is he'll find some wiggly footnote to throw in the exhortation that comes after this synod, just like he did with the Amoris Laetitia. He's going to find some way to wiggle around it so that in practice, the teaching is subverted, but in the letter of the law, it stays the same. So when you get these Pope splainers, when you get people, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not even calling anybody specific out. You know who they are, right? When they're sitting there and they're going, well, you got to give the benefit of the doubt. No, you should be appalled by the things that are happening. And by you sitting there and pretending these things are just accidental and pretending they're just imprudent, what do you do? If the entire body of Christ came together in unison and said no, that is the sensus fidelium, not this nonsense going on at the synod, right? Like, think about every one of these synod meetings that they had. I was never invited to anything because I would go there and disrupt the entire thing. Nick wasn't invited because Nick is way too coherent and specific in his intent when he speaks. I mean, Nick, you'd be way better at one of these things than me, but I would scare people.
Well, it's like, at the end of the day, this is what I'm talking about. Your cards are out based off of what you're talking about. Do people actually think that one day we just woke up and instead of talking about, like, the deep things of divine simplicity, we're just all of a sudden talking about same-sex marriages and things like that? Like, why are we even having this conversation? It goes to show that at the end of the day, fundamentally, again, where this comes from? I'm glad you brought up Amoris Laetitia. Where all this stuff comes from, I'm going to blow your guys' mind with this. When you look at Vatican II's document, right, on the subject of ecumenism, it brings up the discussion of interfaith marriages, right? Now, I recommend everyone, if you want the full details, go watch the SSPX's video on interfaith marriages, if you want all the details. But short answer is this. When you look at the 1917 Code of Canon Law and all of the things, it was it literally used the language of parish priest, you need to put the terror of God into your parishioners to not do this. Like that's how. So there was some very small, minor exceptions, but they were like in legit emergency cases. It was, for the most part, terrorize these people into recognizing don't fall into this. Well, at Vatican II, you found that they said, well, while it's not ideal, it is something that actually does show a lot of beautiful reality because you are seeing two people from different backgrounds come together. They love their child. That same justification, right, in those paragraphs of Vatican II's document on ecumenism are in the same justification place in Amoris Laetitia. That became the seed that eventually became Amoris Laetitia, where it was like, well, it's not ideal that, these people are divorced and civilly remarried, but, they do love each other and they have raised these kids. It's not the ideal, but, it's okay. This is going to be the same justification for same-sex.
That they're stretching over into the same-sex union thing, right? Like, so they're saying like, okay, well, yeah, it's not the ideal, but there are good fruits that come from it. So now when you see a same-sex relationship, when they want to get married, at least they're not going and banging 9 different people, guys.
Yeah,
like that's literally what they're saying.
Yeah,
like, they're having orgies. This is a good thing.
Yeah, you're like, at least it's not bestiality, and that's the point. Like we've
That's
actually
next.
like we've gotten to this ridiculous point.
How is this Catholicism at this point? And then people will sit there and go, Calvin Robinson, why aren't you becoming Catholic? And I'm like,
it's a sad day. It's a sad day when we have to invite on Anglican prelates as the base priest, quote unquote.
Okay, so
when we can't even get
so here's what's funny. Like, all right, so Calvin Robinson follows me on Twitter now, right? And I'm like, the temptation to, because I've DM'd him too. Him and I have had DMs, and he actually fraternally corrected me on something. And I'll tell you right now, I took the Lofton video down because of Calvin Robinson. He's why I took the Lofton video down. So he fraternally corrected me, and I said, you know what? I don't want to be that guy who's so stubborn. I'm like, all right, fine. The thing is, though, you're 100% right. We're going to Anglican clergy at this point in time because our own clergy is so like, listen, okay, we're going to touch on Strickland too, right? So Strickland gets this apostolic visitation. I can't tell you how happy I am with this man. Rob, did you get the tweet I sent you? Yeah, so look in WhatsApp, yes. and I sent you a Strickland tweet. Just pull up that Strickland tweet. First off, I told everybody, Strickland ain't going nowhere. He's not going anywhere because he's not some Puerto Rican bishop off in the middle of nowhere where all the other bishops hate him. So he writes,
I've not seen this. This is hilarious. This is a straight up reaction from me.
In a new interview with Info Vaticana, Archbishop Fernandez expresses an openness to same-sex blessings if they don't feed confusion over the meaning of marriage between a man and a woman.
Fernandez, for anyone who doesn't know, is the new CDF head.
The new CDF prefect or whatever he is. Archbishop Fernandez needs to read Genesis 19:15 through 29. The Lord God rained down sulfurous fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah. And Romans 1, pray that he returns to the Catholic faith. Dude.
He is, whether he wants that position or not, he's in the same position as the Archbishop. I mean, you know what's so interesting?
These people, listen, when I say he's America's bishop, John Henry Weston coined that term, not me. Okay. John Henry Weston started calling him America's bishop. How is this man not America's bishop? What other bishop would stand up to the new CDF prefect and go, I hope he comes back to the Catholic? I mean, he sounds like a mobster. It sounds like something I would say. That sounds like something I would say. Yeah, I pray he comes back to the, listen, I don't know what you're doing out there, buddy. That's not Catholicism. And he's right. That's not Catholicism. And what's funny is like, so you get the Sede Twitter, right? And Sede's are like, his ordination is invalid. He's not. It's like, dude, shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. Like, Bishop Strickland has become a catacomb. He's become a restrainer of evil. He has become somebody who's put limitations on what Francis is able to do. Because as long as we have men like Strickland, and even us, guys, I know everybody gets on us because of how annoying we are online. Videos like this, where we're talking to the laity and people are saying, no, I won't put up with this. Like, this is a line I won't cross. You guys don't realize how important this is, because even I saw Mike Lewis today saying that the online stratosphere has put a damper and actually, you know what? I actually have the tweet because Joshua Charles just texted me something about it. I wrote a tweet saying, Okay, so Mike Lewis said Winters is onto something here. I think critics may have tanked the odds that the synod will have a significant positive short-term impact on the U.S. church. Great job, guys. But these are the same gripes they've been repeating for 3 years. So I wrote, actually, the significant positive short-term impact is that people are waking up and realizing that Christ's church is being hijacked. I've seen more conversions from Francis shock than I ever did under Benedict. Francis is awakening the remnant. So you'd never see guys like Strickland doing what they're doing unless you had a Francis, because what happens is when you start getting heresy and I'm not saying Francis is heresy. I'm just saying, like, when you start getting this heterodoxy, you also get men who say they put their foot down and they stand their ground.